Hey Book Dragons, I'm back for another video. I have seen a lot of people doing the 12 and 12 challenge, and a lot of them had a couple of different concepts. I just decided to focus on fantasy, both YA and adult, that I have not read or I'm intrigued to. A couple of these are rereads just because I kind of pulled them from a list from a couple of groups I'm in, and for Instagram and I think Twitter I got a couple too. But I just sort of put up this post in a couple of different places and had people give me recommendations. So I'm just going to attach photos. Some of these books I do own. I will mention if I've read them, and if I remember anything about them or if I know anything about them. But some of these were just some random recommendations. So yeah, let's get into it. The first book that is The Trader's Queen by Danielle Jensen, which I have read book 1, The Bridge Kingdom, and this is the direct sequel. So I do want to get around to this. I do actually have it on my TBR for February because it is romance heavy and I was trying to build a pretty romance heavy vlog or TBR. So let's take a look at the picture of that. I remember really liking book 1, so I'm excited to dive back into book 2. And I remember I got to the book 2 and I was like, oh, where is this gonna go? And then there was a companion book, and I really do like Danielle Jensen's writing style. I want to go back and read The Stolen Songbird because I think that that's more up my alley because it's YA, but I really did like it. First fantasy romance I've read in quite a while that really captured me, which is really, really good. The next book that I have is There Will Come a Darkness by Katie Rose Poole. Here's that photo. This is like a ragtag group of people have to solve and save the world. And I remember I got this arc at BEA, I think. It was either BEA or Comic-Con. I think it was Comic-Con, come to think of it. And they had like all the titles on the back and I was like really intrigued by it. I've had it for so long. I think the whole series is done. Katie Rose Poole is coming out with a new book in 2023, but I do love to read stuff in publication order. It's actually up there, but I'm just too lazy to go get it. But I'm happy it finally made it on the list. I don't know who recommended it, but thank you, and I hope to get around to it in 2023. The next book is definitely one I haven't heard before. I've heard of Neil Gaiman, but someone recommended me Stardust. So here's the photo. I have no idea what this book's about. Like, not a blessed clue, but someone said that I would like it, so I decided, or said like I should read it, so I'm really excited to dive into it. I've never read anything by Neil Gaiman. I'm trying to think if he's an author that I would like, so that's why it's on this list. And yeah, the next one is on my TBR. It's The Bear and the Nightingale by Catherine Arden. Let's take a look at the photo. People tell me you should read this in the winter. It's a very, very winter fantasy. I think it has Russian elements to it, and it's supposed to be very like, well, Bear and the Nightingale, obviously, because it is Bear and the Nightingale, but it's supposed to be like very like fairy tale-esque. I like Catherine Arden's middle grade series. I have been reading that, so I really hope that I like this. And someone says that if, you know, I also have For the Wolf by Hannah Whitten on my TBR. You will like this. These two are always closely linked, so I'm really hopeful that I will like it. I have the whole series on my TBR. I got them all at various book cons and Comic Cons over the course of a couple of years. So if I like book 1, I'll definitely move on to book 2, but people have told me you should read this in the winter. So that is the hope. The next 2 books I'm going to chat about are all like rereads. I have Ember in the Ashes, which I read so long ago, and I just never got around to moving on with the series, and I feel like at this point I really do need to reread it. I remember really liking book 1. I read book 1 for book club, for like book hype back in the day, and then I just got like really distracted and just never moved on. But let's take a look at the photo. Again, I think everyone's heard of this. I just need to make progress and read the last 2 books, but I feel like I should probably reread the first 2. So that's why it's on this list. This one's not like, I started this book when I was little. So Aragon by Christopher Paolini. And I remember I was like astonished that a 16-year-old could write a book, because I was 16 when this book came out, and I remember I was like, oh my, or maybe like a little bit older. I think I'm a little bit older than him, but I remember I was just astonished, and I just like started it and then I got distracted, but I've heard really good things about it. So that is why Aragon's on this list, and I got like a promotional copy at Comic-Con recently, so I have a copy. So yeah, that is why it's on this list. I hope I like it. I know people have had mixed thoughts, but I love a good dragon fantasy, so I hope I enjoy it. Here's a photo. My last reread is Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas, and I loved her Throne of Glass series. I've read her Crescent City book 1, and everyone says Court of Thorn and Roses is amazing. So I read book 1 a very, very long time ago and just never got around to reading book 2, book 3, book 4, 5. So I'm gonna give it a shot again and see how I feel. I might do the graphic audio at some point because I heard that that's like a really cool listening experience, and I did read it just like a really long time ago, but I want to give it another shot, and I want to actually move on and read A Court of Mist and Fury and see how I feel, because it's been a bit. But yeah, that's another book that's on my TBR. Enjoy the photo. Then the next book on my TBR is Blood Like Magic by Lascelles Sainsbury. This is a book about a girl who has to find her true love and then kill him. That sounds like a really big, cool concept. It just sounds interesting. It gives me Bone Crier's Moon vibes by Catherine Purdy. It's a massive book. It's over there. So hopefully I'll get around to reading it soon. That is the hope. But take a look at this photo. These covers are stunning. Iron Widow is also on this TBR, and because I heard it's like a poly romance, which I don't think I've ever really read before, and I heard it's like really, really good. So that is why that is on this book. I have an e-arc of it that I can read. I also want to grab a physical copy as well, but I don't know much about it other than it's like fighter pilots with a poly romance. I might be giving you the wrong summary, but I am excited to dive into it. Take a look at this photo. The cover's pretty. The sequel cover or the companion cover came out even more pretty, so I want to read it. I also got a recommendation to read Atlantis by Brandon Sanderson. I have read a couple of books by Brandon Sanderson, but I haven't made a dent in his backlist, and this I think is a standalone. I don't know what it's about. I do have a physical copy. My mom got it for me for Christmas a couple years ago, so let's take a look at the picture. And yeah, I'm excited. I'm in the middle of Mistborn and in the middle of Way of Kings, so this might be a nice palette cleanser. And obviously, in addition to that, Well of Ascension is also on here for Brandon Sanderson. So 2 books by Brandon. They're pretty big books. Let's add both the photos, Laura, so I don't forget. And the last book is another fantasy romance that everyone and their mother has been talking about, and that is Daughter of No Worlds by Carissa Broadbent. I do not know what this book's about. I've heard really good things from everyone that's read it. I have another book by Carissa Broadbent that's on my tentative TBR. So yeah, that is the 12 fantasy books that I hope to tackle in 2023. I hope to read a lot more, but these are just the ones that like have been calling my name or people recommend it to me. And let me know in the comments if you have any fantasy books on your TBR or you would like me to try some. I can do another one midway through the year. I would love to add some more to this list, and I'll talk to you guys soon for my next video. Bye, Book Dragons.